Welcome to Planetary Health First, Mars Next. We're on a mission to transform healthcare where all equally benefit by building a robust, dynamic, diverse community. So glad you could join us. Awesome. Well, welcome to Planetary Health First, Mars Next. I am so excited. Today we have a special guest. We don't usually have too many famous people, but I feel like today we sort of have someone famous, a professional surfer, Micah Nickens, and he's leading a huge movement, doing some amazing, cool things. And we're talking about this thing today. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it's what is called the Peter Pan syndrome. I guess that could mean a lot of different things. And welcome to the Uncles movement. We have the founder here, Micah. Go ahead and just share a little bit about yourself. So if the audience who isn't familiar with you, that would be great.
Thanks, and I appreciate that introduction. I think my daughter is the only one who views me to be famous, like you said I was. But yeah, my name is Micah Nickens. I was born and raised here on Maui, where I still currently live. I was very blessed to have a lifestyle where I could surf and get a paycheck for it for quite a while. And then from there, I transitioned from being a pro surfer straight into working for one of the companies that sponsored me since I was a young child, Nickens. And from there, I worked with Nickens for 22 years in the marketing. I was the team manager, then eventually became the marketing director of all water-related sports. So yeah, in that time period, I spent many of days really trying to maintain a team where we had the young and awesome up and coming current epic athletes that help promote the brand. And sadly, as the athletes would age out, they kind of just moved on in a sense where we didn't really put as much focus on them, and we revisited who was the next awesome up and coming athletes. And as that time went on and on, I always thought about it. I'm like, it's kind of sad that we have these amazing athletes, but because they're a little bit older, they're no longer considered relevant. And they move on and start getting full-time jobs. They start their families, and I kind of had like an aha moment at one point where I was like, there's this whole market where there's an opportunity to speak to that age bracket that everyone that I call it like the forgotten generations. And it's all these amazing athletes, female and male, that still just give it their all in life, whether, whatever sport it is, whatever activity they love to do, they charge, and it gets them, they wake up in the morning with that inner drive. And that is kind of where the Uncles movement was created. The idea behind the brand was to help promote and support and encourage these like-minded people to be a part of what we're doing, and whether they live a life of that mindset already, or maybe they need a little bit of assistance or encouragement. Yeah, so I kind of went on a long-winded explanation, but ultimately this brand started with the idea to really encourage that second half of life where it's like, we should be excited. There's a lot of exciting things to look forward to in life. Yes, things will get more challenging. Our bodies do get a little bit older, but that doesn't mean that we just throw in the towel and give up on everything. It means that we approach it, in a smarter, being more aware of ourselves. And by doing that, we'll be able to really charge and have a fun, fulfilled second half of our life.
Yeah, I just, when I saw, so if for the audience that doesn't know, I saw a post on social media of you, a YouTube clip of this wave pool. And I think Alex showed it or saw it, a former boss of mine, great guy, Alex Bitten. And I was like, wow, what is this? And then I started looking at some of your media, your videos, and it seems like every sport you guys are involved. I saw pickleball, surfing, the wave pool. So with your uncles, like, is there a number? I mean, I don't know if you track it. How many uncles are there at this point?
Oh, in the community, I have no idea. It's like you said, it's we're not pegged to one sport. The idea that mindset really lives in any sport and activity. For it's really just that person grasping it and saying, "I'm taking this mindset and I'm running with it." It doesn't matter what the sport is, but it's global now. It's become a global community. I've got people in Canada, France, Australia. It's really cool. All over the United States, coastal, middle America. So, it's great because it's the idea behind it is to become very inclusive. I want everyone to feel like they can be involved in this. It doesn't matter if you're good at a sport. It doesn't matter if you're good at, the hobbies. It's just that you have that inner fire that keeps you going and you allows you to, you know, get excited every day. You're like, all right, today's Thursday. I'm gonna go play pickleball with my friends. You get that excitement inside of you. That's it. So that's all we want to hear.
So Micah, can you share? Because maybe I'm missing it, but I see that it's like a two part. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to this uncles movement, but isn't it also to pull up the other generation, these younger? I mean, essentially, to me, that's the other part, and I think the audience and the viewers really should understand. It's also as an uncle, you're not only not giving up, but you're lifting up those younger aspiring uh you know I guess younger adults that need more direction, more focus, more guidance. That uncle in the community, is that correct too? There's a lot of that intertwines with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the whole, I can explain what the uncles movement, the name of it even it means. So I was born and raised in Hawaii. So when you address someone that's older than you, that as an uncle or auntie, it's kind of a sign of respect. It's an earned privilege. They're usually people in the community that everyone respects, and they do good for the community. And that's kind of the preface of the uncles movement. Like, yes, you want to be a diehard at the sports and activities you love, but you're holding yourself accountable to the public too, and to the younger generations, like you said. So you use the knowledge that you've learned throughout your life and you share it with the younger generations because you do have that opportunity and they do respect you and they look up to you. So it's an opportunity to share. There's a Hawaiian word we call pono in Hawaii. It's kind of overused here and gets abused, but the definition of it is to do what is right, and ultimately we want to live a pono life. You want to do the right things, and sharing with the younger generations, and giving them the tools to work with when they're younger that's super important to the uncles movement. Absolutely, yes.
You were a pro surfer for several years. It would be exciting to know what that was like, just a little more for our audience.
So during my generation of pro surfing, we kind of got lucky. So there was a Maui crew, and it was right when aerials were really starting to become just, the magazines were eating it up. There was a certain levels of the dynamic of aerials that were being pushed at the time, and we loved it. We were obsessed with it, and so we kind of were we were like the Maui boys that traveled and we're just trying to punt big airs and get content. We didn't really do a lot of contests. It wasn't like my sponsors weren't like, you need to compete, you need to get results. There's like, you get your coverage, you get magazine shots, you get your video clips. That's all we care about. So we were kind of lucky back then. Like nowadays, It's a lot harder to do that. But so we got to travel the globe and, just basically have fun, but with the mindset that we had to be as progressive as possible and document it. And so it was a really fun time. I think I kind of got lucky to be in the right place at the right time, in that sense, where there was a collected group of us that were doing it, and the magazines really took to it, and we kind of got a bit of a cool reputation in that sense, and it kind of segued our careers for as long as they lasted. Some it lasted for a year or two, some it lasted for over a decade. So it was a really fun era.
Well, so I imagine for the audience that might not be familiar with aerials, I think I figured it out. So that's where you're going up, however you go on that wave, and you're creating lift. You're jumping, you're whatever, and so you're doing some spins, or I mean, tell us a little more what that is.
Yeah, so the idea was to project off the top of the wave, and whether you spun or you just kind of drifted and landed back into the wave, that's considered an aerial. Yeah, sorry, my terminology, I should be a little more sensitive to the viewers, but yeah, I mean, that wasn't all of it. There was also just trying to surf the wave as well as you could,
Mhm.
like the rest of your peers. But because we were so focused on that, it kind of gave us a little more attention. A Surfer and Surfing Magazine, which were the two biggest magazines at the time. Then to get the video clips were always a big bonus. So it was, yeah. And then now, like currently, fortunately, since I'm older, now it's like you
You're
have
an
to have.
uncle. You're not old.
I'm
You're
an
an
uncle.
uncle.
I'm an uncle. I know. Yeah, absolutely. But and then that doesn't mean anything either. Some of my friends who are also uncles go into gigantic waves and they don't think twice. But now then there's the really, really big wave surfing aspect. We have a wave in our backyard called Piahi, also known as Jaws. And it's one of the biggest, most rideable, perfect waves on the planet. And it only started getting really surfed in the last like 20 years. It was being before that they would assist you into the wave with the jet ski, so you get towed in. But to manually paddle in by yourself, it only 20 years is actually a little longer than it probably was. But that's added now. So the young kids now, it's like, yeah, you got to do your progressive surfing, but you also have to be out there and show your stuff. So it's grown into this big like expectation of you got to check all the boxes in order to really fit the mold. So we
So with Jaws, is it do you paddle in, or is it still you need to be pulled into it?
so you paddle in. Typically when the conditions are favorable, you paddle in. I mean, if it's windy and it's just not conducive for paddling, then yes, you get towed in by a jet ski. But I would say 80% of the time you're paddling now.
Mhm. And so when you were surfing, professional surfer, you were traveling the world. Were there any countries that just you were just blown away with by the people, the culture, or the wave?
I would say I've been to a lot of different locations. I would say Tahiti's my favorite.
Mm.
It's ironically, it's like it's like Maui if you rewound Maui 75 years ago. It's crazy. My buddy and I, we were young. I was probably 18 and he was probably 14. We were walking back to our house we were staying at, and this really large, intimidating Tahitian guy was running across the street at us. And I was telling him, I'm like, okay, if he crosses the road and looks like he's coming at us, just drop your groceries and run.
Mm.
And we completely misread it. And he came over and he just comes up and he's like, Yodana, which means hello in Tahitian, and shakes our hands and then keeps running. And I looked at my friend and I was just like, this is it. This is the place. Like, it was just, I fell in love immediately at that point. I was like, this is the coolest place. And plus the waves are just perfect. But Tahiti's, I've been back there probably 10 or 12 times.
So it sounds like I'm just trying to figure out, trying to share with the audience, like the impressions that you had in your life, these experiences that made you, motivated by this uncle's movement, kind of to really do that. And it sounds like surfing, without the surfing, the culture, the community, all that you were doing, there would be no uncle's movements. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up here in Hawaii, respect was everything. You had to give it. You weren't going to get it back. You had to give respect. It wasn't an option. And being a little fair white boy in Hawaii, even more so. You had to be respectful. In the water, you paddle out in the lineups. You couldn't just expect to take. It didn't work that way. So it really, yeah, it did create this kind of, this mold where we didn't have a choice. You had to kind of show show up with respect, and that really was something I was very grateful for, because when I did travel, I showed that respect, and it really allowed me to have some amazing moments when I, be in other countries. You go to a new spot and you smile. You don't go straight into their zone and act like it's yours. You kick back on the outskirts of it and show respect, and then they invite you in. And that's, that was a big thing. That was a big part of growing up here. You didn't have a choice and to a certain extent, but it was also the best thing ever. And that's kind of the preface of the Uncles movement. It's like really trying to be respectful to yourself and to others, and to, just trying to show what good examples you could be for the next generations ultimately.
And it seems like there is no single in the Uncles movement. It's a plural, it's a community, and it's done together. And it would be interesting if you could share a little more about like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like that wave pool that you watched, that edit. That we brought together this community of uncles that some knew each other, some didn't, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. They all shared this common ground of excitement and love for surfing ultimately. And they all appreciated how each one of them also could have been anywhere from in their late 30s to early 70s. The age didn't matter. It was all about that personal excitement and that hype. Like they are all, the commonalities of excitement just washed out the age. So it brought everyone together in that rad community of, like, doesn't matter what age you are, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna have a blast, and that's it.
And it sounds like it's this respect and also the desire for the value of others, of relations, and with that, trying to keep fit and doing the things that you had. And um, so you have mentions about the respect, and tell us a little bit about self-awareness and how that works into respect.
Well, I think ultimately it's respect for yourself. It's self-awareness is something that I've been fortunate to be aware of. My small group of friends, we all keep each other in check. That's for sure. And we all praise each other for our achievements. And if anyone's kind of going astray, we pull each other back in. And if there are things that we're soft on, it's going to be brought up. But self-awareness has been something that I've really honed in on, since I'm also a father too. And I have a daughter, and I want to be the best father I can be to her. And I also need to identify what my flaws are, whether it's physical or mental. And we come from a generation where no one really wants to admit that they may have some mental issues, that there's depression, there's anxiety, there's other forms that keep us from being balanced in life. And I kind of wanted to, the idea is to, like, what, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to like share it with your friends or a professional. Like, there's nothing wrong with admitting that something's wrong, and that's something that I feel like, growing up in the surf world, there's a lot of machismo. Everyone wants to be macho, but at the end of the day, we want to be healthy and happy. And yeah, so self-awareness has become a huge part of the Uncles movement, where we want, and myself, like, it's like, I want to have that balance in my life, that proper balance, and being aware of everything that's going on in my life is like the first step.
Yeah, I feel so encouraged when I'm hearing this. I'm hearing vulnerability, men having vulnerability, men having authenticity. And with authenticity, you're able to really create what we call, psychological safety, where people feel safe. And I think that's just so awesome that you're doing it with like the ninjas of the world, if you would. I mean, the super surfer. I mean, you guys are like, whether it be UFC fighters, I don't know what to compare you guys to, jiu-jitsus. I mean, you guys are super trained, you're super tough, you've done all the training. I could only imagine the amount of training you do to get to that level as a surfer and those men that you're around. And yet you've been able to create this, not only is it's a movement, but you also, it's like a lifestyle brand. And uh, so we're going to get later in the show a little bit about some of the other things, but if you could just share with the audience more of where you see this going and sort of the people that have come along. I know you were sharing that there's some others, don't want to name drop, but you were mentioning Owen Wilson is a supporter, just sort of the other people that you've just been blown away with that have gotten engaged and involved with this.
Yeah. When I first started to push this idea, it's you leave yourself vulnerable because you're super excited about it, but is everyone else going to feel the same way? And one day, Woody Harrelson and I and a third friend went surfing. We all jumped in the car together, and we were heading to the spot. And I was wearing my shirt, and the other guy was wearing a hat. And Woody's like, "Well, what's this? What's the uncle's movement?" So I explained it to him, and I was like, "Well, here we go. Like, he's either gonna think he'll placate me and say, 'Cool, rad, whatever,' or he's gonna feel it." And I can't swear on this, but he's like, "I effing love this." That was his reaction, and I was just like, "Yes, that's so cool." He's like, "I love everything about it." And I think what triggered him to really appreciate it was the emphasis of pushing to live, love, and laugh as much as you can, and to put that into your everyday life. And he really felt that. And then so I've got some pretty big actors that support it. They really feel what it represents, and that's, for me, it's like that's a sense of accomplishment because they're hard to impress. They've seen it all. Everyone gives them and shows them all their cool ideas, and they'll be cool and be respectful, but they really appreciate this. So it goes to show that there's definitely a good chance that this is going to take off.
So where are you right now with it? Like, when did you start this movement?
So I've had an Instagram account for a couple of years now, but I didn't really dive into it where I supported it with apparel till the beginning of the year. And that was basically where I created a t-shirt line and selection of hats, stickers, and just hydration bottles. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm moving into the next phase where I'm going to go more athleisure, because I really love tennis and I love pickleball, and I do love MMA, and I'm just active. I love to stay busy. So I want to build product for everyone that does all of that so they can wear it, not just a t-shirt. But yeah, so I have t-shirts, board shorts, athletic shorts, jackets, different types of hats coming. So it's going to be more of a unified line that speaks to the lifestyle.
And so what is so this is for profit, but is there a different model? Are you giving back a certain amount? What does that look like? Because it's really a social mission driven movement, but obviously, why, it seems like, so how are you threading that needle?
So yeah, we do quite a bit of give backs, whether it's I'm committing time to helping out with kids, judging surf contests, or doing beach cleanups, or it's amazing how many different opportunities will pop up. But we do, the idea is for the uncles to give back. It's not just to take by any means. But right now the brand is pretty small. But my idea is to actually create a nonprofit to support this that'll really take it to the next level.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to make sure with the audience, I'm kind of moving around, jumping around, but I think people need to be inspired and held accountable. And when I saw this 14-day betterment challenge, I was like, geez, I need to do that. Tell us a little more what this 14-day betterment challenge is.
Yeah, so the challenge ultimately is just to find balance in your life. We get pegged with responsibilities, whether you're a parent or not, but there's just things come at you left and right. And you may have been on the right track. You're eating healthy, you're sleeping well, you're exercising, but then all of a sudden you go off track and then you're not doing some of it as much as you would prefer to. And the idea of the Betterment Challenge is just to kind of recalibrate your lifestyle to go back to that perfect balance that allows you to, maintain a smile on your face every day. We have responsibilities. You can't avoid those. But then are you working so much that you never allow yourself some me time? And that's important too. And are you not giving yourself enough time to your family? So the idea is it's a 14-day challenge, and each day there's a task. And like day one, it's reflection, and you want to reflect on all the good things you've done in your life, some really good achievements, and kind of pat yourself on the back, because a lot of times we start to talk negatively about ourselves. And the idea is to be like, I've done some really cool things, and I just need to remind myself that, that's something that should pop up now and then. Mindfulness is a big one. I feel like when I was young, I always thought of meditation as just like things that hippies did. And I was like, I really, really wish that wasn't the case. And my daughter's 14, and she'll come into my office with me and we'll do a guided meditation for 15 minutes. And I would have never done that when I was her age. But just to breathe and relax your mind and your body, it's just super healthy. Forgiveness, being able to forgive yourself or forgive someone else that you've just been holding something against for years, maybe, but just to free that out of your heart, just to allow yourself to move forward with not holding on to that negative energy, because it doesn't do anyone any good. There's activity, obviously, like you got to commit to 30 minutes a day of giving yourself a proper exercise, and it's so healthy and good for your body to do that. So every day has a different task, and they're all achievable. None of them are it's not like the hard 75 where you really got to bust ass in order to achieve it. It's a mental and physical task, throughout the 14 days of challenges. So I feel like if you do it and then you can maybe continue to do it, it just recalibrates your balance again to where you're like, okay, let's do this.
It sounds like a great opportunity for companies, employers to support, well-being, and wherever there's organizations of several, it sounds like it would be a great activity and opportunity to really help people in community to really drive further, on their so I can see a lot of organizations using something like this.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, the ironic part is it's just reintroducing common sense, really. I mean, it's just bringing back things that we should practice every day. It's nothing groundbreaking, no game changing. We haven't done any studies that are like, this is what we just developed and this is what you should do. It's just like, hey, here's a reminder of what we should do daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I nothing to discount what you're doing either, because I mean, I was so impressed by, I'm forgetting the founder of AA, but I mean, the peer support accountability, though he was, I mean, that was a movement when he was starting earlier on. I remember seeing a series on that about his journey and getting AA started, but obviously 14-day betterment challenge and your uncle movement is got similarities with the accountability and the community, and a lot of it, like you say, isn't rocket science. You don't need studies on it, but there is something powerful about holding people accountable and knowing someone's there. So the data is there. I mean, with that in itself,
Absolutely. And it's very effective. We've done it. I still try to do it. What's great is when I launched it, I also threw out like, hey, I'm going to do Uncle's Movement's going to do a dry January. Who else wants in? And I surprisingly got a lot of responses like, I'm in. And I also said, okay, if you fulfill this dry January, I'll throw you a discount, to purchase some product. And I didn't know how many people would actually follow through with it. And I was really surprised that a lot of them did. And I would say the majority did. And I was like, that's awesome. Like and I'd follow up with them, like, how good do you feel? Like it's like, we're not anti-drinking, everything in moderation. We're a cold beer at night. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. But if it's abused, then that's another story. But yeah, it was really cool. It was like, and even to this day, people will still be like, hey, I'm still not drinking because of that challenge, So it's like, it's not for everyone, but if someone feels like that's something they need to do, then yeah, we support it for sure.
Yeah, I love what you're saying with that dry January, and it's very common in religious practices, whether Lent or just fasting. I mean, it's very effective. Many organizations find really good effects of that. While we're here with you, is there some other things? I don't want to miss this opportunity for you to share with people. What is something that you would like to share more with the audience with?
Well, we are in the process of launching the Anti's mission. So it's basically a reflected version of the Uncle's Movement. And I've been hit up, I don't even countless times on, well, what about the Anti's movement? I'm like, you're 100% right. Like, that's just as important. But I'm just a one-person operation, and I'm trying to get this going. But yes, absolutely. And a lot of women are actually wearing the Anti's movement hats and shirts because they didn't care what it said. They really gravitated toward what it represented. And ironically, the Anti's movement was taken, the trademark. So I was like, okay, well, what's plan B? I got to come up with something. So we got the Anti's mission, which is great. And I love it because it's really the same thing. It's their own personal mission, whatever that is, to each his own. But they have their mission on what makes them happy and what keeps them balanced in life. And so that's coming soon. I'm still working out the kinks on it, but I'm really excited to launch that.
Well, Micah, is there someone that you're finding, like, if it's a co-founder of a company, there's two, is there the auntie that is going to be the ambassador, or, can you share a little bit about that?
Well, I currently have some ambassadors that are just representing the Uncle's Movement, but yeah, I do have a handful of, my wife's really into tennis and she's really good at it. So a lot of her friends that play really, really love what I'm doing. So I really have this strong tennis community of women that are really embracing it. So I know that the mindset, it's real. It lives everywhere. And it's just, yeah, once I have it ready to go, I feel like it's going to resonate quite well once, it's an opportunity for the women to take it.
So it must be difficult to do your other activities and this. What are you doing when you're not doing your Uncle's Movement? How are you finding yourself balancing this?
Well, I love surfing still. I surf as much as I humanly can. This time of year, it's pretty flat. There are no waves. So I resort to a lot of time on the courts. I love tennis. I love pickleball. I was really into jujitsu, but I tend to get hurt a lot doing that. And then like your friend Alex and I, we met in Muay Thai, and that was how we connected, punching each other in the face. And but we've become very good friends since then. And so yeah, I personally have to burn energy like daily. It's just something I have to do just to find that balance. So you know, in the afternoons after work's done, I'm looking for my opportunity to stay busy. So I'd love to surf. If there's waves, I'll take that, but tennis kind of comes in at a close second.
Yeah. Well, that's really, if you're the founder of the uncles movements, it's really good to know and that you're practicing what you're preaching and modeling. So it seems like it's really coming out of place is what you know do. It comes from the heart. So um, I know we're sort of going to be finishing up soon, and I know we had a few other things to discuss. Is there anything else at this point that is coming to mind for you that you would like to a call to action for the audience that's listening to this? Any takeaways?
Yeah, call to action, come visit my website, unclesmovement.com. You can check it out. I have an explanation video. I've got other interviews I've done with the Hawaii local news, so you can get a better understanding. You can see the product if that's something that you'd like to see. But I had another thought, but I lost it explaining that. But yeah, I really appreciate you spending the time talking to me about this.
Well, Micah, I really appreciate you coming on today. And I know we're in a different time zone, and but we were able to connect, and it was from seeing what you're doing. So your movement is spreading digitally, and it was by, I guess, Alex. I imagine you better make him a part of the uncles movement. If he isn't, you're going to get him in Muay Thai and knock him around, huh?
Yeah, he's involved, whether he likes it or not. He's one of my models. No, he loves it. He's a big supporter. And now I remember what I was going to say. And I don't want the audience to think that you have to be good at a sport, that you have to be at the top tier to feel like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this sport, therefore I feel like I can be accepted in the uncles movement. It's absolutely incorrect. I mean, that's always great, and we praise the uncles and aunties that have given their time and devotion to these sports and have, you know, gotten to the levels they've gotten to. But we also are going to be just as proud of that uncle and auntie that just decided, I'm going to take up surfing. I'm 40 something years old and I'm going to start surfing for the first day of my life. We love that too. I'm going to start playing pickleball. I'm going to get into this little ring of the circle of friends and start playing 2 to 3 times a week because it's getting my heart rate going. That's all we want to hear. It's like the idea behind it is for you to just have that little inner fire, and whatever that looks like, it's a case by case, but you got that inner fire in you. That's all we need. And you're in.
I like that. I like that. It would be really cool to hear everyone who's an uncle. We need to interview every uncle and just their little short uncle experience. That would be fascinating. I'd love to hear each uncle and what they're doing and how they get that lit inner fire.
Well, if you go to my Instagram account and my Facebook account, I do interview. I've got this guy. He was an Olympic athlete in skiing, Trenner Payton, and he is now the coach of the Canadian half-pipe ski team. And he's such a great example of what the movement stands for. He's just the nicest person in the world. I mean, just one of those uncles that, anyone could go up to and he would just take care of them and help them out without thinking twice, give them the shirt off his back. He's great like that. And then he's also just a phenom of an athlete. I took him up to these bike trails up on Maui. He hadn't rode a mountain bike for quite a while, but because I was filming him, he just stepped it up and went off these big jumps. And I was just like, oh man, please don't get hurt. So on my Instagram, if you scroll through, you'll see I've done some little stories on uncles, and I want to mix it up. Surfing is obviously my background, but the idea is to like really encapsulate everything. Like
Mhm.
there's no limitations to this mindset. So I want people to feel like they could be speed walking in Idaho, and that's what they do. And they wear that hat because it gets them up to go do that hour and a half speed walk.
Mhm.
Like that's it.
I like that. I like that you're sharing, kind of letting people know that it's a very inclusive movement to find your inner joy. And it is physical. I mean, we are talking about getting and doing something and moving, but it's more of a way of life. And yes, pickleball is probably the most accessible sport. So if you have feet and you have shoes and you can go to Target, I don't know, you go to Target and get a racket, pickleball racket or whatever you call it, a paddle, excuse me, pickleball paddle. For $40, you're ready to go, and it's so accessible. So I think pickleball is probably the greatest, easiest, accessible sport where you can all get in. It's very co-ed friendly, and then you can get really. I'm sure you're really good. The dink shots and slam. You don't get in that kitchen. So, yeah, I played tennis a lot myself, but pickleball is really super cool. So I think I would say everyone that wants to join the Uncle movement, if you don't think you can do something, get out there and do pickleball.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I think just hearing about your Instagram, how can people find your Instagram? Because it seems like it's such a visual experience with everyone doing these activities. That would probably be, what is your Instagram account?
So it's at Uncle's Movement.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, at Uncle's Movement is on Instagram, and so you've been doing that for several years, so people can scroll through that and see all that you're doing. So while if you can just share a little more while I want to post that, because I want people to be able to actually see that, and it's at Uncle's Movement, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, check it out. It's entertaining. And I forgot to add something to this whole conversation, but laughing is something that I hold dear to my heart. I try to make myself laugh. I set myself up for laughter as much as I can throughout the day. It's so healthy. And something I try to do on the Instagram account is to make people laugh. I'll find funny memes. None of them are ever taking it's never taking pokes at nationalities or anything. It's very clean, but it might just make you chuckle or laugh to yourself while you're scrolling through. And for me, that's a mission accomplished.
Well, man, every time we keep you on, each minute you're peeling the layers about this. So
Yeah.
I love the laughter thing. There's so much. What was that gentleman that became health with laughter or healing with laughter? I know there was a book 20 some years ago about that. I mean, there was like, I don't know. Anyway, I don't mean to, but anyway, I know there is a lot to be said with comedy and laughter. So that's cool. Um, well, I really thank you, Micah, that you've come on. I know I just out of nowhere, you were like, who in the world is this guy? Why is he asking me to come on the show? What is this show? Planetary Health First, Mars Next. But anyway, you said yes. So anyway, this is super awesome to have you on. And the last takeaway, because I imagine you might have one more thing to share.
Yeah, if you're interested, or if you feel like someone out there that will resonate with what we're doing, please share that with them. I think once people understand what the movement stands for, they're typically down. They're in. They feel like that's me. That's something I need. So yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, if this is something that you're interested in Hawaii, we say "E komo mai," and that means welcome. Come on in.
So how do I join today?
I mean, you just commit to it. It's just like, I'm in. I want to, you
All
can
right.
jump on the website if you feel like you need to wear a hat or a t-shirt to fill it, or a sticker on your car, or and like on a surfboard or on the equipment, or it's just you just like want to follow my Instagram and my Facebook. That's it. I mean, and And please be reactive. Let me know, like on the social, like, hey, I watched the podcast and this is great. This is me. I'd love to hear it. And if you have a story you'd like to share with me, and we're all about sharing other people's stories as well. So if you have something cool you'd like to share that you think would work, we'll post it up as well.
I love this. You made me think I have something. I am joining today. Afterwards, I'm going to go on your website. I'm going to buy a hat, and I need to get out and play pickleball because it's been a while. We had that COVID thing. I stopped going ever since. So I'm making that commitment to you. And I think I already checked. I think the hats are, it's a good, something like $37, right? Is that about
36? Yeah,
36.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a good quality hat. It's a movement. It's a statement. So when I get out there playing pickleball, I'm gonna try to get another uncle or two, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So you've definitely motivated me, and that is it. Wrapping up, and this has been awesome, Micah, to have you on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Friends, it's been such a great journey today on Planetary Health First, Mars Next. Feel free to follow us. Just type in Planetary Health First, Mars Next on the internet. Until next time.